"Step back," said the guard. The voice cracked like thunder across the plaza. The senator froze mid-step, his polished black shoe hovering just beyond the rope line. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. 1,000 camera lenses trembled in waiting hands. The senator's smile, that perfect politician's grin, faltered as Sergeant Elijah Brooks's rifle shifted with a mechanical precision that belonged to another world. The tomb of the unknown soldier lay silent behind him. 3 marble slabs gleaming like frost in the noon light. Even the wind dared not cross that sacred line. Some steps belong to the living, but some ground belongs to the fallen. You're watching Arlington. If you believe in honor above power, subscribe now. The crowd murmured, unsure if they'd just seen disrespect or history in the making. "Sergeant," the senator said, regaining his grin, "I only meant to offer my hand." He extended it slowly, as if reaching for a fragile branch. Brooks didn't blink. His left foot locked. His right gloved hand gripped the M14 rifle, angled down, motionless but alive, like the silence before a storm. "Sir," he said evenly, voice carrying across the plaza, "the tomb is guarded 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No exceptions, no interruptions. Step back." Gasps rippled through the onlookers. A child's voice whispered, "Is he allowed to say that?" PFC Daniel Ruiz, standing 20 paces behind the rope, felt his stomach twist. It was his job to intercept anyone before they crossed the barrier. He'd failed, again. Behind him, Captain Lena Ward's jaw clenched. She could already see the headlines. A senator, Mark Hallstrom of all people, rebuked by a soldier in full ceremony. Cameras flashed like artillery. Hallstrom's hand hung in the air, palm open. For a moment his eyes hardened. The brief flash of power offended. Then he tried again, smiling for the cameras. "Sergeant, we're all Americans here. Surely a handshake doesn't dishonor the fallen." Brooks's voice stayed flat, carved in stone. "Sir, the guard on duty does not engage in conversation or gesture. This post is sacred. Please remove yourself." The crowd's murmurs turned electric. Some nodded in agreement. Others whispered about arrogance, politics, respect. Emily Carter, her camera shaking slightly, zoomed in. She hadn't planned to capture a viral moment, just a wreath ceremony for her small news channel. But now her hands trembled around the phone, the lens fixed on Brooks's unwavering stance, the senator's unease. Brooks's reflection shimmered on the marble beneath him. The sun had broken through the clouds, cutting a sharp beam of light across his face. The air smelled faintly of oil and brass, the kind soldiers never forget. Ruiz swallowed hard. He'd seen Brooks in training. Precise, merciless about detail, every step exactly 21 inches, every turn timed to the second. But this was beyond the manual. "Captain," Ruiz whispered to Ward. "Don't move," she hissed. "He's within rights. Protocol is clear." The senator chuckled under his breath, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. "You know, Sergeant, millions are watching. A little civility goes a long way." Brooks's eyes never moved. "So does respect, sir." A single flag snapped overhead, loud as a rifle crack. Silence swallowed the plaza. Even the tourists stopped filming for a heartbeat. Then Hallstrom dropped his hand, smoothing his tie with a stiff laugh. "Well, that's quite enough for the cameras." He turned toward the crowd with politician's grace, but the crowd didn't smile back. Some clapped quietly. Others stood frozen, unsure whether they'd witnessed a scandal or a sermon. Emily's phone kept recording. She caught the senator's face, the flicker of irritation, the subtle sneer, and Brooks's unbroken silhouette behind him, rigid as marble, rifle gleaming like a line of light. The tomb guard's oath is not a performance. It's a covenant between the living who stand and the dead who no longer can. Brooks shifted, the first motion since the confrontation began. His heel clicked sharply against the marble, one step, deliberate, echoing like a gavel. He resumed his slow, measured march. 21 steps. Pause, 21 seconds, turn. Every muscle in his face was calm. Inside, his pulse thundered, not fear, fury, not for the senator's arrogance, but for the breach itself. Behind him, Ruiz stood at attention, eyes burning. Ward exhaled, half in awe, half in dread. She knew the political fallout was about to hit harder than any storm. Hallstrom turned to his aide. Delete every unapproved photo. This doesn't go public. But Emily had already uploaded the video. Within seconds, it was spreading across the network, first to local feeds, then national. The title she typed without thinking, "Senator crosses the line, guard holds his ground." As she watched the views climb, the weight of what she'd captured began to settle. It wasn't just a clip. It was a reckoning. The senator's car door slammed. Engines roared. He left without another word. Brooks never turned his head. Duty did not allow acknowledgement of the living, not even of power. The crowd dispersed in hushed silence, as if leaving a church. Ruiz lingered, staring at Brooks's back. "Sir," he whispered under his breath, "you just ended your career." Brooks paused mid-step, eyes fixed on the horizon. "No," he murmured quietly, the words lost to the wind. "I just remembered why I wear this uniform." The wind carried the faint sound of the flag's fabric snapping overhead. Then, the world shattered with a sudden shout. "Sir, someone's live-streaming this to national news." Ward spun, eyes wide. Emily's phone screen glowed, comment lines flying faster than she could. Read. A headline appeared in bold, "Tomb Guard refuses Senator's handshake. Crowd reacts." The camera zoomed on Brooks's still figure, marble, man, and meaning all at once, as millions began to watch. And somewhere behind the silence of duty, a storm was gathering. The conference room door clicked shut. For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of the HVAC filled the silence, sterile, constant, merciless. Outside, the marble plaza gleamed in afternoon light, the tomb still guarded, still perfect. Inside, honor was on trial. Captain Lena Ward stood with arms folded, eyes fixed on the file in her hands. Across the table sat SSG Elijah Brooks, uniform immaculate, posture straight, face unreadable. Next to him, Private First Class Daniel Ruiz sat rigid, guilt clinging to him like sweat beneath his collar. Colonel Myers from Public Affairs leaned forward. "Sergeant Brooks, you refused a sitting senator's handshake during a live event viewed by millions. You're aware that this incident is already being used as political ammunition?" Brooks's voice didn't waver. "Yes, sir." "You embarrassed an elected official," the colonel pressed. "Do you understand the magnitude of that?" Brooks's answer was precise. "My duty isn't to elected officials, sir. It's to the unknowns." The colonel sighed, rubbing his temples. "This isn't about duty anymore. It's optics." "Optics. That's what they call it when honor becomes inconvenient." The smell of coffee and wet wool hung in the air. Papers shifted. A pen rolled off the table, clattering to the floor. Ruiz flinched. Captain Ward broke the tension. "Colonel, protocol at the tomb is explicit. No interaction during the watch. The senator crossed the rope line. The guard responded correctly." The colonel's jaw tightened. "You're defending insubordination." Ward met his glare. "I'm defending sacred ground." Brooks stayed silent, eyes forward. His reflection glimmered faintly in the dark table surface, rifle in one hand, creed in the other. A guard speaks through silence, but silence can be loud enough to shake power. Colonel Myers leaned back. "Public Affairs has requested a written apology. The senator's office expects it before morning." Brooks's eyes didn't flicker. "I cannot apologize for performing my duty." The colonel's chair creaked. "Then you may face suspension pending review." Ruiz's voice cracked, desperate. "Sir, I was supposed to intercept." "Quiet, Private," Ward cut in, sharp but protective. "This isn't on you." Outside, muffled thunder rolled. Clouds were gathering over Arlington, dark and low, pressing against the marble hills. The colonel gathered his papers. "I'll escalate this to command. Dismissed." Brooks rose with mechanical precision, saluted, turned, and left the room without a sound. His boots struck the tile like the ticking of a metronome. Steady, certain, final. Ward lingered behind, eyes narrowed. "You just turned a soldier's discipline into a scandal," she said quietly. The colonel paused at the door. "Discipline doesn't trend online, Captain. Outrage does." Outside, rain began to fall. Slow, heavy drops that darkened the pavement around the eternal watch. Brooks stood beneath the eaves, watching the tomb through the mist. Each raindrop struck the marble like whispered applause. Ruiz joined him, helmet under his arm, voice small. "Sir, you think they'll pull your badge?" Brooks didn't answer right away. He watched the relief guard marching in silence, every step a sermon in motion. "If they do," he said finally, "the marble will still stand. The creed will still hold. That's what matters." Ruiz looked down. "The video's everywhere now. People are saying you humiliated the senator. Others call you a hero." Brooks's gaze stayed fixed on the tomb. "People will say what they want. The marble doesn't listen." A flash of lightning cut across the sky, white against gray. The wind carried the faint scent of gun oil and wet stone. Ward stepped out from the command building, rain spotting her uniform. "Brooks," she called, "you're off duty till further notice." "Yes, ma'am." "You did the right thing," she added quietly. "Just remember, right doesn't always win." He nodded once, jaw tightening. "Doesn't have to. It just has to last. Some rules are written in ink, others are carved in marble. The ones carved last longer." As the storm grew heavier, the rhythmic sound of boots on stone echoed faintly from the plaza, another guard beginning his watch. Brooks looked toward the sound, spine straightening instinctively, the way a soldier salutes thunder. Through the rain, Sergeant First Class Nolan Tate approached, broad, calm, the kind of presence that grounded storms. A thin scar traced his cheek like a memory of fire. He stopped beside Brooks, hands clasped behind his back. "You made the right call," Tate said softly, "even if it costs you the badge." Brooks gave a faint nod. "You think it'll come to that?" Tate's eyes drifted toward the tomb. When power gets embarrassed, it always finds someone to punish. Lightning flared again, and for a moment, both men stood in silhouette. Two sentinels in the downpour, framed by marble and light. Tate turned, voice low. "You didn't just refuse a handshake, you refused power. That's why it matters." Brooks said nothing. The rain slid down his hat brim like tears he'd never allow himself to shed. From across the plaza, the tomb guard's voice rang out through the storm, clear and unyielding. "Halt!" One word, one creed. Brooks closed his eyes. The echo lingered, the pure, unwavering sound of duty. Thunder rolled again, closer this time. The storm was coming. But for men who guard silence, thunder is just another test. A flash lit the horizon. In the command office behind them, screens flickered to life. The video, the headlines, the hashtags. Honor before handshake. It was spreading faster than anyone could stop. Ward's phone buzzed. She glanced down, heart sinking as she read the alert. Senator Hallstrom responds live at 7 p.m., calls guards' behavior a disgrace to civility. Her eyes lifted to the window, where Brooks still stood in the rain, motionless, watching the tomb. The thunder broke again, louder, nearer. And then the power flickered, plunging Arlington Command into half-darkness. Somewhere deep within that silence, a war older than politics had begun. Rain whispered across Arlington that night. The marble gleamed like wet glass beneath the floodlights. Inside a dim barracks room, PFC Daniel Ruiz scrolled through his phone, thumb trembling. Every feed was the same. The video, the moment, the refusal, millions of views, thousands of comments. He stood his ground. Fire that guard immediately. Honor before handshake. The world had chosen sides. In the age of noise, silence still scares people, especially when it's right. Across the room, Sergeant Elijah Brooks sat on the lower bunk, still in partial uniform, cap resting on his knee. The screen glow flickered across his face, calm, unreadable. Ruiz swallowed. "Sir, they're saying your name now. Someone leaked your file. It's everywhere." Brooks didn't look up. "Doesn't matter who says it, the tomb's not about names." The faint buzz of fluorescent lights filled the pause. Outside, the sound of rain on the roof mixed with the rhythmic crack of the relief guard's boots on marble. The watch never stopped. Not for storms, not for scandal. Ruiz set his phone down, uneasy. "Sir, they're calling for an inquiry. Captain Ward's trying to keep public affairs off your back, but..." Brooks's eyes finally rose. "But what?" "They're saying the senator's going live tonight. He's calling the ceremony a national embarrassment." Brooks's jaw flexed, but his tone stayed measured. "Embarrassment doesn't change truth." At the Arlington Command Center, Captain Lena Ward stared at the monitor wall, a mosaic of news feeds and social media streams. Senator Hallstrom's press conference was moments away. Reporters swarmed behind the podium as Hallstrom adjusted his tie, smiling with that same effortless arrogance. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice smooth as polished steel, "I was simply honoring our nation's heroes when I was met with hostility. No soldier should ever dishonor an elected representative." Ward's fist tightened around her pen. "Disgrace," she muttered. "He's turning reverence into politics." Beside her, Sergeant First Class Nolan Tate stood silent, arms crossed. His eyes never left the screen. "He's playing to cameras," Tate said quietly, "but the marble doesn't blink. Some men seek light, others stand guard against the darkness that follows." Emily Carter watched the same broadcast from her cramped apartment. The rain outside her window blurred the city lights, reflections dancing across her laptop screen. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Interview requests, sponsorships, messages from networks. She scrolled through the comments on her video, thousands of strangers debating honor, duty, and respect, and her name tagged in all of it. Her finger hovered over delete. Then she stopped. The comments weren't just arguments, they were confessions. Veterans writing from hospital beds, families posting photos of headstones, words like sacrifice, duty, grace. She closed her laptop and whispered, "They deserve truth, not spin." Then she grabbed her raincoat and keys. Back at the barracks, Ruiz stared out the window. "Sir, how can you stay calm through this?" Brooks's gaze remained fixed on the tomb beyond the glass, faintly lit in the storm. "Because the unknowns can't speak, so we don't get to shout." Lightning flashed, white, clean, unrelenting. Ruiz hesitated. "You think they'll court-martial you?" "If they do," Brooks said quietly, "then it'll be for doing what's right." The room fell silent again, until the faint tap of boots echoed in the hallway. Captain Ward appeared in the doorway, rain dripping from her coat. Her eyes told the story before her voice did. "They've scheduled a hearing," she said. "Tomorrow, Pentagon, 900 hours. Ruiz's breath caught. "Already?" Ward nodded grimly. "The senator's demanding it." Brooks stood, buttoning his jacket. "Then I'll be there." Ward exhaled, watching him with quiet respect. "Elijah, the storm's bigger than you know. Half the country's behind you. The other half wants you gone." Brooks picked up his hat. "Then they'll both get silence. That's all I owe them." He guarded the tomb. But now the world was guarding him, each side waiting for him to break. Later that night, the plaza was empty except for a handful of visitors under umbrellas. The rain had slowed to mist. Brooks walked the perimeter alone, tracing the rope line with his eyes. Every foot of stone gleamed under the soft white lights. Emily emerged from the shadows near the memorial steps, clutching a small camera. "Sergeant Brooks?" He turned, motion slow but deliberate. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," she said, voice trembling, "but I wanted to tell you. The world's watching you for the right reasons. That video wasn't about fame. It was about the way you stood." Brooks regarded her for a long moment, then said quietly, "Standing isn't hard. Standing still is." Emily nodded, raindrops tracing her hair. "I have more footage. From before the senator crossed the line. It shows he was told not to. I didn't release it." Brooks's brow furrowed. "Why not?" "Because I wanted to do it right. Not viral. True." The wind shifted, carrying the scent of wet grass and gun oil. The flags overhead cracked softly in the dark. Brooks's voice dropped lower. "Keep it safe. Truth's the only thing worth guarding longer than marble." She gave a faint smile. "I'll bring it to the hearing." He nodded once, stepping back into the light. His silhouette stood against the white tomb, shadow and marble fused into one. The storm had gone quiet, but quiet doesn't mean peace. It means the next thunder is loading. From the distance came Tate's voice, steady and low. "Sergeant, time to prepare." Brooks gave a final glance at Emily. "If you believe in the truth, don't sell it. Show it," she nodded. "Tomorrow." As she walked away, the rain began again, slow, deliberate, unending. Brooks raised his rifle, inspected the steel under the light. It gleamed cold and perfect. He stepped forward, one pace, paused, turned, the same eternal rhythm, the same sacred ground. But tonight, it wasn't just the unknowns he was guarding. Tomorrow, he would guard the creed itself. Lightning flared again, and for a heartbeat, the entire plaza flashed in white. A perfect image. Brooks at attention, rifle across his chest, flag snapping behind him, the living embodiment of duty before fear. Then, darkness swallowed it whole. And from that darkness, the faint echo of a voice. "Tomorrow they'll try to make you kneel." Brooks didn't flinch. "Then," he said softly, "they'll have to break marble." The flag behind the witness table barely moved, a stillness so complete it seemed to judge the men before it. The Pentagon chamber smelled of starch and polished oak. Cameras lined the back wall, their red lights blinking like watching eyes. The air was tight, heavy with the perfume of politics. Sergeant Elijah Brooks stood alone. His uniform was flawless, his bearing immovable. His badge glinted under the white fluorescent light. Tomb Guard identification, 509. In the Tomb Guard's creed, there is no line for compromise, only for vigilance. At the far end of the long table sat Senator Mark Hallstrom, his expression calm, confident, the practiced serenity of a man used to being obeyed. He adjusted his tie, waiting for the cameras to settle. Captain Lena Ward stood off to the side, hands clasped tight behind her back. Sergeant First Class Nolan Tate watched from the gallery, eyes sharp as a rifle sight. The presiding officer, a two-star general, began. "This inquiry will determine whether Sergeant Brooks's actions violated military conduct or disrespected an elected representative during a ceremonial event." Hallstrom leaned toward his microphone. "General, with due respect, I was there to honor our fallen. I extended my hand in respect, only to be humiliated, in front of the world." The general nodded, politely. "Noted. Sergeant Brooks, your response?" Brooks's voice was even, each word deliberate. "Sir, the tomb of the unknown soldier is a post of silence. No one crosses the line. No one interrupts the watch. That includes me." Hallstrom's smile didn't falter, but his eyes narrowed. "Surely a handshake doesn't desecrate the dead." Brooks's head lifted slightly. "It desecrates the code, sir." Gasps murmured across the gallery. Cameras clicked like distant gunfire. Captain Ward stepped forward, protocol binder in hand. "For the record," she said firmly, "the senator breached the ceremonial boundary. Sergeant Brooks executed the standard verbal command, no deviation, no aggression." The general flipped through the transcript. "Captain Ward, are you confirming the senator was briefed on proper conduct before the ceremony?" She nodded. "Yes, sir, twice." Hallstrom's jaw clenched. "That's absurd. No one told me?" A new voice interrupted him. "Actually, Senator, they did." Every head turned. Emily Carter stood in the doorway, rain still glistening on her jacket. She held a small drive in her hand, trembling slightly. "I have footage from before the event," the general gestured. "Step forward." Emily's voice quivered, but her conviction burned through it. "My camera was rolling early. It shows the senator's aide being told explicitly not to cross the rope line. You can see him relay that instruction, and the senator ignoring it." Ward's eyes flashed with vindication. Tate exhaled slowly, like a man watching a storm turn. The senator's face drained of color. "That's a misinterpretation." "Play it," the general said. The lights dimmed slightly as the screen flickered to life. The room filled with the faint hum of the recording, wind, chatter, camera movement, and then, unmistakably, a voice. "Sir, please remember, no physical contact, no crossing the line." Hallstrom's own voice answered, "Understood. Just a quick photo." Then the crowd's gasp from the ceremony. The sound of Brooks' steady command, "Step back." The video ended. Silence pressed against the walls. The general leaned forward. "Senator Hallstrom, care to explain this contradiction?" Hallstrom forced a thin smile. "Clearly, this has been enough." The general's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Sergeant Brooks upheld his duty. Inquiry concluded. Emily released the breath she'd been holding. Ward's shoulders dropped in relief. Ruiz, watching from the hall outside, grinned faintly through the glass. But Brooks didn't move. His posture never broke. He saluted the general with exact precision. Permission to return to post, sir. The general's tone softened. Granted, Sergeant, and thank you for reminding us what honor looks like when it costs something. Brooks nodded once. Honor always costs something, sir. There are victories that don't need celebration, only silence. As the room emptied, Hallstrom remained seated, staring at the dark monitor. His hands trembled, not with anger, but with fear of what came next. His aide leaned close. Sir, the networks are running the full clip. It's trending again. Hallstrom whispered, Turn it off, but the world had already seen. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air was crisp, the kind of cold that bit through uniform fabric. The tomb glowed under the returning sun, white marble against the new blue of a clearing sky. Captain Ward approached Brooks on the plaza steps. They cleared your name, she said softly. The senator's office won't admit fault, but you're reinstated effective immediately. Brooks gave a single nod. The tomb was never without a guard. Ward smiled faintly. They're calling it the most honorable silence in America. He adjusted his cap. It wasn't silence. It was duty speaking without words. From a few paces back, Emily lifted her camera. Sergeant, just one photo? No handshake, just history. Brooks didn't smile, but his eyes softened. History doesn't need my face. She lowered the camera slowly. Then maybe it needs your example. He stepped forward toward the plaza, boots striking the marble with that same eternal rhythm. 21 steps. Pause. Turn. The flag flapped once overhead, crisp and clean. And in that moment, every witness, from the journalists to the officers, fell silent, not out of command, out of awe. The world had seen a soldier refuse power and win through stillness, but for the Guard, victory isn't the end. It's the privilege to take one more step. Thunder rumbled faintly in the distance, far beyond the horizon, a reminder that peace is never permanent. As the scene faded, Tate's deep voice carried through the quiet. Elijah, you stood against a senator today. Brooks's answer came like marble cracking the air. No, Sergeant, I stood for the unknown. A sharp gust swept through the plaza, snapping the flag high, its echo rolling like distant drums of war. And on that sacred stone, he resumed the watch. The sun bled gold across the marble as the crowd gathered once more at the tomb. It was evening, the kind of quiet that makes you whisper, even when you don't know why. Every seat was filled, veterans in faded uniforms, families clutching folded flags, reporters with silent cameras. They all came to see the Guard who refused power and stood for the unknown. Some stories don't end in applause. They end where silence begins, on sacred ground. Captain Lena Ward scanned the plaza from the rope line. The air smelled of cut grass and brass polish. A bugler tuned in the distance, the soft metallic hum trembling through the breeze. PFC Daniel Ruiz stood at attention beside her, rifle across his chest, chin high. His hands no longer shook. Ma'am, he whispered, they said this was voluntary attendance. Looks like the whole country volunteered. Ward smiled faintly. When one man guards the unknowns, a nation remembers them. At the center of the plaza, Sergeant Elijah Brooks approached the marble steps in full uniform, freshly pressed, shoes mirror bright, badge number 509 pinned over his heart. The low murmur of the crowd dissolved into reverence as he passed, every motion precise, every breath measured. Emily Carter stood near the media row, camera poised, but heart pounding. The footage she'd revealed had cleared Brooks's name and ignited something bigger than scandal. The image of him refusing that handshake had become a symbol of principle. Now, the public waited for his reinstatement ceremony. Senator Hallstrom stood among them, posture stiff, expression unreadable, political pride barely holding under the weight of silence. The wind shifted, cool and solemn. Ward stepped forward to the microphone. Today we reaffirm what no controversy can erase, that duty, once sworn, stands eternal. Sergeant Brooks will resume his watch at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Applause rippled, restrained but powerful. Brooks saluted. Then, as the bugler's first note echoed across the cemetery, he began the slow, eternal march. 21 measured steps along the white marble mat. The sound of his boots on stone filled the air, deliberate, rhythmic, absolute. In a world that applauds noise, a single step in silence can echo louder than speeches. The crowd stood motionless. Cameras recorded, but for once no one spoke. Brooks reached the end of his walk, pivoted, waited 21 seconds, the exact count, no more, no less. His face betrayed nothing. His heart carried everything. Across the plaza, the senator lowered his gaze. Pride, shame, and something unfamiliar, humility, tangled behind his eyes. Ward watched him closely. "Even marble can teach men to bend," she murmured. Ruiz exhaled softly beside her. "He doesn't need forgiveness, ma'am, just the lesson." A hush fell again. The bugle stopped. Only the wind moved, and then, unexpectedly, the senator stepped forward. But this time, he stopped before the rope line. His voice was quiet, stripped of pretense. "Sergeant Brooks," he said, "thank you for reminding me who this place belongs to." Brooks didn't respond. He didn't need to. His silence was the answer. Hallstrom nodded once, stepped back, and saluted. Cameras flashed, but this time, no one flinched. The moment wasn't for show. It was for the fallen. Emily captured it. Not the handshake refused, but the salute returned. The final image that would travel across the world. A senator standing outside the line, and a guard within it. Both finally in their rightful place. The tomb guard does not speak. He does not move for praise or punishment. He stands because others cannot. The sun dipped low, turning the marble golden. Brooks's shadow stretched long across the plaza, merging with the white of the tomb. He paused mid-step, the sacred 21st pace, and turned toward eternity. The flag cracked overhead one final time. Then silence, deep, perfect, complete. In that stillness, a nation remembered itself. Ward whispered softly, "At ease, Sergeant. The world's watching, and it's quiet." But Brooks didn't move. He didn't need to. His rifle rested across his chest, angled over his heart, a statue of discipline, a sentinel of the forgotten. Some hands are not meant to be shaken, only saluted. The camera panned back, the tomb framed in sunset, the guard alone yet eternal. Emily lowered her camera, whispering to herself, "That's not a story. That's a promise." Ruiz stood at the rope line, eyes wet, voice barely a breath. "Sir, permission to join the watch someday?" Ward smiled through the hush. "Earn it. He already did." Thunder rumbled far away, not a storm, just the earth remembering. Brooks took one final timeless step. Marble met heel. The sound was pure, clear, absolute. And as the music of silence reclaimed Arlington, the scene faded on the guard's unbroken silhouette. Eternal vigilance, eternal honor, eternal rest for those who will never return and for those who will never leave. Subscribe for more stories of courage, sacrifice, and the soldiers who guard America's promise, one silent step at a time.